Welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another installment of our series Before the Snap. If you've tuned into this program before, you know what you're going to hear about. You're going to hear about all the interesting careers in and around the NFL. And today, we're taking a spin to the media side of things and seeing all things behind the scenes, production, all the way to being on camera with our special guest today. So if you've tuned in before, again, thank you so much. And we hope you are excited for another program. This is your first time and you've never tuned in before. You just heard what you're going to hear. This is a great way for you, whether you're in high school, college, or a young professional, to get your networking career started and learn about all the different career paths that are out there that you can do in and around sports. So I'm excited today to hear a little bit about our special guest's journey to where she is in her career today. My name is Jake Ray, and I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, preserve its history, promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made our Hall of Famers, the 362 we have enshrined, the best football players, best minds in the front office that they can be. But it also made them great dads, great husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, members of their community. And truly, these values can make you a great member of any team, any organization that you're a part of. You'll be surprised how many times today that these values pop up and you hear them in the answers we talk to. It's just because they are that important. Before we do get started with our special guest today, Karlie Smith, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Karlie, for being a part of the program today. You know, we have a saying here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, thanks for all you do for the game of football, and indirectly, thanks for everything you do for us here at the Hall of Fame. You have the unique perspective of, kind of got to work a little bit around the Hall of Fame and see what it's about. So first and foremost, thank you for everything that you've done for us here at the Hall of Fame for the game of football and truly for sports in general. We call this program Before the Snap because we want to talk about all the work that goes in before the snap happens in a game of football. So thank you for all the work that you've done throughout your career. Secondly, I'd like to thank our teachers, administrators, educators, professors, anybody that shared this program out with their students, showing it right now or watching us 6 months down the road. Just thank you for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience. And lastly, the students. I hate to break it to you today, but I'm the only one from the Hall of Fame you're going to be hearing from today. No Nathan, no Jerry. We're wrapped up in so many other cool programs going on today. So I'm watching YouTube. I've got the stream pulled up here right beside me. So if you have a question, submit it. Put your name down there. Let us know who you are, what school you're from, and submit your question. If you don't have a question, that's okay. Now, we encourage it. We want you to ask some questions because, like I said, nobody wants to hear me talk the entire time. But we want to hear what you have to say. But if you don't have a question, like I said, just let us know where you're watching from. We want to see how many schools we have tuned in for the program today. So today, as I said before, we are lucky and grateful to be joined by Karlie Smith. Her entire life, the Lord has used the sports realm as an avenue for communication. She communicates as an analyst, commentator, reporter, writer, and truly what everybody is, a professional emailer. Throughout her career, she's played many roles, and it started as a student athlete at East Carolina University. After college, she played a quote-unquote utility role, just like she did in her softball career. She's a network TV runner, operations manager, production assistant, content creator, broadcaster, and the list goes on and on. She was born in Delaware and has worked all over the country, and she has now landed down south in Georgia. She has worked for NFL on Fox and Fox Sports and is currently working as a reporter for the Colonial Athletic Association. So, Karlie, welcome to Before the Snap.
Gosh, such an honor to be here with you. That was such a long list of things. I'm sorry you had to read all of that, but so great to be here and just have this conversation with you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to hear what you have today. And like we said, you hear all the different things you've done. We can dive into all those different experiences, how you got there, how they helped you become the best person you are today. But, to kind of start off, we just like to talk about what the day-to-day life looks like with your job today. So working for the CAA, what are some of the things you handle? What are the things you do on a day-to-day basis? And what does your work week game day kind of look like?
Sure. I think when you read the portion of my resume or the long laundry list of things I've done, the email portion was probably at the top of the list. I mean, it's just, the day to day, I'd like to say, Jacob, yeah, it's so glamorous, but it really is just the behind the scenes work of sending emails, of communicating with my team, of making sure that, our athletic association is serving the schools in the conference as best as we can. So whatever that looks like on on a day-to-day basis. One day I could be going to, a studio to record a preview for the weekend. The other day I could be creating social media content. The following day I could be traveling to cover a championship. There's so many things that you could do within a day, within a week. And so I really am just on standby to help out wherever's needed. But, being in the realm of communications and sports, there's opportunities to freelance. So being in Richmond, Virginia, sometimes I'll go off and do some freelance work too. So it changes day to day, as I'm sure you are so aware of with your job. I think that's pretty consistent across the board in sports, but yeah, a whole variety of things shake up really.
And that's cool. And I think, we see the media side, especially with today's, how important social media is. Every team's got an account. Every team's putting out content, not just on game day, but throughout the week, leading up to a big game or whatever it might be. But I think the perspective from an entire conference is a lot different because you don't have that one team. Now, if you work, we're in Ohio, we'll just use Ohio State as an example. If you work for the Ohio State University football team, that's what you're focused on, solely focused on football content in and out. Yes. But for you, you have X number of schools, all of which have 20 plus sports. So how do you balance from an association standpoint, making sure we're giving love to football programs, basketball, baseball, tennis, softball, soccer, whatever it might be? How does that balance play out in your day to day?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Something that I really am still learning. And what's cool about my story is I have had the opportunity to work in Georgia with the University of Georgia. So I've seen what it looks like to be all in, all present, all devoted to one university, right? But now when we have, 13 plus with our conference expanding, teams to cover, universities, institutions to cover, and then within each university is of course different Olympic sports. We've got a football conference, CAA football. So yeah, there's a lot here, but the coolest part is, and we talk about this a lot, is God will equip you for things before you step into it. And so growing up, I have always just been one of those kids who was thrown into, okay, play field hockey today, play softball today. All right, you just practiced at the pool. Now it's time to transition to the field. So I think since I was just a little girl, little Karlie, right, running around, multitasking, playing different sports, that stays the same. And so, knowing the language of athletics, knowing just different things about being an athlete, about being in sports, you can really relate to a variety of sports happening at the same time. And so, definitely a challenge to make sure that you're giving all the attention that's worthy for each of the sports, right, at the same time. And we do that to the best of our ability. But it's awesome. It keeps it interesting every day because it's not just the same set of rules, conversation. It's different every day. And so, yeah, we just try to serve the people well, love them well. And that can look like one sport one day, another sport the next, but whatever you're called to do that day,
I'm sure it's nice too, because it isn't, we don't want to say life will get repetitive, but you've got fall, winter, spring, maybe some stuff over the summer. So it's always something new every time you come into the office. We've got some awesome stuff coming in, no questions yet, but I see we got some colleges represented. Juanita College, Coastal Carolina, Abilene Christian, Nova Southeastern, Northwestern College, Tampa, University of Tampa. We've got some Southern universities of New York, University of Rutgers. So we've got some people watching, but still don't have any questions. So students, if you're watching, get your questions submitted. This is your opportunity to ask a question to somebody whose day-to-day life is spent working in sports. And that's why we're here. We want to give you students the opportunity to ask those questions. So until we get more questions though, I have a bunch that I can ask. And looking, back over your career, was the media world, production space, was that something you always wanted to do? Or was there a different change throughout your career? So looking back, if somebody may be in high school or early in their college that might not know what they want to do, how would you say to find that niche, that one thing that is the one thing that they want to do with the rest of their lives?
Just keep walking it out. And I think take a moment, if you think about, okay, what do I feel called to do? Take a moment and look what's around you. Because, growing up for me personally, I just always played sports. I was always in sports, played softball in college. And so where I was able to contribute, exercise my gifts, where I was able to love and serve people well was in the realm of sports. And so wherever you're at right now, whatever state you're in, whatever university, maybe you're at high school still, just take a look around you. What are you involved in? What opportunities have been opened in this season of life? And pour into that. Give it all you got, and then keep walking it out. And so I remember for me in high school, there was a TV station that came to our high school. They were doing like a show. I think I got some type of athlete of the month type of thing, right? And so I remember sitting and talking to someone who worked for the local sports channel and feeling like, all right, this is cool. This is something that I could potentially see myself doing someday. But my family, everybody's a teacher. So it was kind of like, probably not, but that's awesome. And so just being in college, I went into college undecided. I have a minor in human development and family sciences because I thought maybe I will, carry on in that teaching role at some point in time. But what God has really just shown me is it doesn't matter your title, right? If I'm a teacher, if I'm a reporter, if I'm a production assistant, you're always communicating, you're always serving the people around you, you're always loving the people around you. So that's been something very consistent in my life. When I look around, I see a lot of sports athletics happening. And so that's where I kind of communicate and pour what I've been given into those people around me. And so, yeah, my point of advice would really just be aware of your surroundings, love and serve the people that are around you well, get wise counsel from those people, seek that out. And if you have a desire, go for it, because your current circumstance might look small. The opportunities might be small, but that can build. And it doesn't matter, whether you're working for some big network or you're in high school doing sideline for football games. Like, you're where you're meant to be in this season, and you just keep working hard there, loving people well there, and you're going to walk it out to where you're meant to be. I truly believe that. I
think you brought up an interesting point there. We always talk about the game of football.
Mm-hmm.
And we're unapologetically football. We're the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, finding that one thing you like to do. And I was just listening to Nathan give a presentation to a group of students this morning. And he talked about, if you're good at math, if you're good at science, if you like to read, or you like to be on camera or act, and you love sports, there's some sort of job out there. It's very difficult not to find a job where you can combine your passion for whether it's extracurriculars or in the classroom, and a sport that you love, to kind of find that one job. And it goes, and if it's not sports for you, we're okay with that. We don't want you to go work in sports, but we're okay with that. But there's so many different and unique jobs out there that if you put the research in and put the time in, there's a really good chance you can find something that truly is what you want to do. And that gets you into college and then you can take classes, you can go to conferences, you can network, partake in programs like this. I'm sure we have people out there watching today that want to work in media and now have the opportunity to network in this sort of platform. So, look at that idea of networking and using it to build momentum on your career. Looking back on your college career, as the viewers know, it was something I didn't do as well as I wish I would have. I was the shy kid that didn't want to bother anybody, but you almost kind of have to. So looking back on your college career, you're being a young professional, how important is it to network, and why do you think students should kind of step out of their comfort zone to do that?
Yes. Stepping outside of your comfort zone is something that is going to happen in college. It's going to happen every season of your life. So have fun, get used to it. Right. And so, I remember in college just not knowing exactly what post-graduation would look like, but I knew that there were certain doors of opportunity that I could, ask people, hey, can I come and write for you guys? Can I come in and practice just being on camera, right? And use your equipment. So I just remember not knowing exactly what direction it was gonna look like per se, but any opportunity you get. I mean, you talk about finding your niche, but really, I came out of college and was a production assistant first. I didn't hop right into being a reporter. And so I think, just putting yourself out there, taking the door that is opened that you feel called to go through, and giving your best there is really going to just get you where you need to be. But for the networking piece in college, I was a student athlete. There's probably student athletes watching, or you may just be involved in sports on your campus, right? And so I think in that realm, it's safe to say that there is going to be someone who will say yes to you, right? And you might have to knock a few times, but just keep asking people, maybe it's not a, hey, will you do this for me? But hey, can I help you do XYZ? For example, if you want to do social media, go talk to the people who run social media in there and say, hey, can I shadow you? Hey, can I help you on game day? Can I hold an XLR? Can I practice shooting one day, after you guys go work an event? There's so much opportunity just to be an extra pair of hands and feet to serve within your own sphere of influence. And so if you want to be a reporter, go out and talk to the people on campus who have similar interests, and go out and practice it. It can be fake practice. You don't have to be working in an actual event. That's what I did my whole career. So it's like, you can just go out and do the things and learn by shadowing and just continuing to connect with those people. I think hopefully that answers your question, but yeah, I would just really continue to knock on doors.
And you talked the idea of practicing, and it's funny you brought that up. I was walking through the halls here yesterday, and I looked down into one of our meeting rooms, and our Jameer Howerton, who works in our production team, is the host of our podcast. If you're a podcast listener, go ahead. I'm going to throw a plug in for the mission. Go ahead and subscribe and listen to that. I looked down, and he was, talking to a microphone. Nobody was in the chair, and the microphone wasn't plugged into anything. Right. So I'm like, Jameer, what are you doing? And he's been doing this for 20 plus years. And he was sitting there going through his script, practicing his intro, his questions. And so it's not just something you have to do in college. It's something, if you want to be the best that you can, that you have to continue to apply to your life, even once you're in the field that you like. I will say the students answer the call. There's a bunch of questions on here we're going to go through. So I apologize if I'm looking off to my right. I want to make sure we get all these questions in as well. So we're just going to start at the top and go our way down. Our first question here is from Brian, who attends the University of Illinois. Yep. He wants to know, how did you get into sports operations management with your communication background? And what was the biggest hurdle getting into that field?
Hi, Brian. So nice to meet you. That's a great question. Yes. So I remember I was in college, and one of my friends who, again, this is the importance of networking and serving people in your community. One of my colleagues, one of my people who I interned with, went to classes with, said, hey, Karlie, do you want to work an event as a runner? And I don't know if people watching know what a runner is, but a runner, when you work for a network and you freelance as a runner, you are the trash picker upper, the coffee getter, the just refrigerator refiller, it is not glamorous. However, it is something that taught me so much about what goes on. You will see every single detail of what happens behind the scenes in the realm of operations. That's pregame, that's postgame. And so I said, yes, okay, let's go be a runner, right? And spent a few years actually freelancing as a runner, thanks to someone else who had opened the door for me, just opening an invite, right? And it was, just doing events as a runner, trying to be faithful in the little things of serving people coffee, of making sure that we had lunch ready to go for the crew to eat, those type of things. And so after just literally, putting your head down and working in the grind of it, right, there started to be doors that opened for, I worked with Fox Sports, and they said, hey, Karlie, let's pull you in as an operations manager. It actually started in COVID. I was a COVID operations manager. So they had a need, literally the pandemic created a job for me. They had a need for people to coordinate the testing for game day, for NFL game day. So we would get that there like 3:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, 1 p.m. kick, make sure everybody's safe and sound to go and work the event, right? And so this road in sports, you never know. Nobody could have predicted the pandemic would happen, that would create a job opening, right? So you never know what it is. But I will say that role as an operations manager helped me communicate to people, which then later on down the road, a few years later, helped me broadcast, because I knew the language more. I was more comfortable in who I am as a communicator. And so if you're looking to be an ops manager, just continue to knock on doors, start low, and allow the Lord to take you through the steps that you need to walk through to be, who you need to be later down the road. So really look for open doors, whether it's a runner, whether it's you're shadowing, just continue to reach out to people, because I got in because someone else invited me. So network. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've changed up the setup a little bit. I've got my laptop in front of me, so I don't have to look off to the right. So I'm going to be looking down now to read. Our next question comes from Ethan, who attends Nova Southeastern University. He wants to know, as a college freshman, what would you say is the best way to get into that first internship or big opportunity in any career?
Ethan, hi. Okay. First internship opportunity. First of all, it's amazing you want that as a freshman, because as a freshman, I think I was ready just to lie down and take a nap. So great job. You're on the right track already. But as a freshman, I would continue to reach out to your professors. I would send an email. I would go through your athletic staff directory list, seriously, where you're at, and say, hey, my name's Ethan, whatever your last name is, and I'm interested in XYZ, but would love to come shadow you, would love to come watch what you do, would love to help out in any way that's needed, literally any way that's needed. I know that for me personally, I started off, I still post-graduation did a lot of things for free, and that's going to be up to you and whatever you feel led to do, whether you get paid or not paid. But personally, for me, I was doing a lot just for free. And so, I would just put yourself out there. Like I said, go through the staff directory, send a bunch of emails. You can also obviously go on LinkedIn. You can go on online platforms and look for things in your region. I know NCAA.com, you can look for a specific area where you're trying to get an internship. But yeah, internships are vital. They really are, because you're just learning things. You're kind of working out the kinks, and you really get to see a raw perspective of what it is that you could potentially do one day, and whether or not you feel yes or no if you're called to do that. So yeah, as a freshman, just keep reaching out to people, and behind the scenes, keep practicing. If you want to do a podcast, do it. If you want to be on camera, videotape yourself, record yourself. If you want to be a writer, write, just do it.
All right, great. Our next one is from Cheyenne. She's a student at Utah Valley University. And this is right up my alley, because we all know how important organizational skills are, especially when you have a full-time job. And for somebody like you, Karlie, who's juggling, stuff you're doing in your job, freelance work, what are your favorite programs to use to stay organized between all the different things that you're a part of?
Hi, Cheyenne. Yes, definitely important to be disciplined and make sure that you do have an organized schedule of, okay, this is what I need to really invest time in today. And that's going to look different in a lot of different ways. I'm a huge calendar sticky note person. So if Jacob tells me something, I'm like, okay, need to write that down, or follow up with people based off of one thing that I learned a lot is, as you are coordinating different events, or maybe you are going to a study session with people from your university, that's on your calendar. Follow up, make sure you touch base with people. Just over communicate, I think, has really helped me stay organized and keep everyone involved really on the same page. I love to use calendars and Outlook. I'm not sure what email you guys use. Maybe it's Gmail. There's always Google calendars. And so I just always try to keep a calendar so that it's written and you can refer to it, whether it's on your phone or it's on your computer. In this digital age, we have that access at our fingertips. I think one thing that I've been doing a lot lately to stay organized and not become overwhelmed is limiting how much time I have on my personal social media accounts. I think that if your mind is flooded with so much all day long, you can start to forget different things, or, just say you had a 1 o'clock call, but because of a busy morning or you're scrolling on social media, that becomes kind of on the back burner. And so I think just being very, discern where your time is spent throughout the day. And yeah, for me, that what helps me is limiting time on social media and just making sure that I am present and aware of what's on my schedule. But yeah, over communicate, use a calendar, and discern where your time is being spent. Time is valuable.
Absolutely. I think those are all great points. I'm a big Todoist fan myself.
Yeah.
I've got all my check boxes. I'm getting points. I'm climbing up the leaderboards, making it a competition. Always helps me get things done on my end as well. We're going to keep rolling with student questions. We've got about probably pushing 10 here that we're going to try and roll through. So the next question is a really great one. This is from Ashley. She attends UNLV. She wants to know, can you describe what it means to be a woman working in sports where you are at? She said she's currently interning for UNLV's football team, and at least there, she can see a lot of growth. So can you talk a little bit about that and things you've seen throughout your career?
Yeah, I mean, being a woman in the realm of sports and entertainment, I'm a part of, and Jacob, you know this, with Christina Hovestad and Meg Mendoza, two amazing women who work at the NFL. We have started, basically a seat at the table is what it's called, but it's a community of women in sports and entertainment that really have formed this bond and created a sisterhood. And I think what you're going to see now being a woman in sports is that a lot of people are bonded together, that there is this unity there that may not have been there in years in the past. I'm not sure. I'm walking it out right now with you, but I think there's just this sense of we are stronger together as women. And I think that, where in the past, I remember being younger thinking, man, because of the way that God made me as a woman, or because, there's just lack of jobs, am I going to get a job, or do I need to compete with this other woman who's trying to get in the door? And that's just not the case at all. Where you are is meant for you, and where your sister is meant for her to be there. And by encouraging one another and strengthening one another, just like only women can do with one another, creating that sisterhood, that bond, that will elevate both of you. And if you see a sister who's kind of needing some help, hold the rope for them, right? And bring them along. I think just being in a realm of sports and entertainment with men and women, I've always had guys who have allowed doors to be open for me, or open doors for me, or encouraged me to do different things. So that's been such a blessing. I mean, for example, here is Jacob, my brother in the industry, creating an open door, creating an open space for us to cultivate conversation. And so I do see so much growth, and I pray that we continue to grow in ways that are all inclusive and really just unified, because that's the most important thing.
For sure. All right. Our next question here is from Jacob, a student at BYU. It said currently a data analyst and want to get into sports with a huge interest in football. Wow. What's the best way to build connections in the sports industry? We know analytics, not only in the game of football and in sports, are playing a huge role, but we've interviewed folks who work in the NFL who work in business analytics. So there's sports business, there's on the field analytics. It's growing and growing in the sports field. So in that role specifically, what are some opportunities you can think of, and how does Jacob get his foot in the door in that world?
Yeah, you're in a really sweet spot, my friend, because like you said, analytics, and stats. I mean, think about it, numbers in business versus numbers in sports. If you know your numbers, you're good to go, right? So yeah, I would just continue to reach out to people. I know when I was working with NFL on Fox, MLB on Fox, I mean, just working in sports, you see there's so many stats guys who are in the booth with the analysts, able to really churn out different stats, or people who are, in LA while the game's being broadcasted, and they can, be quick on their feet to know the numbers, right? And so I would continue to reach out to people. I think, I've never looked for that role specifically, but I can imagine if it's not online, there's definitely a need. And so I would do your due diligence in, yes, looking for those stats positions online for data analysis, whatever the role is organized as, but I would definitely make sure, reach out to me after, and I can put you in touch with people, seriously, because there's a definite need for that. And I would encourage you just to keep reaching out to people, especially at the network level.
Awesome. We're going to keep on moving on here. Our next question is from Parker. He's a student at Coastal Carolina. Near the alma mater, not East Carolina, but hey, out there, the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, but you're by the coast. That's awesome.
And you don't have to go too hard, because we talked a little bit about this already, but can you name some of the things? What kind of activities did you do on campus while you were in college to stay involved and build your resume? We know as a student athlete, obviously being a student athlete is kind of at the top of that list, but what are some other things you do to kind of say, maybe I don't get to play the sport I love for the rest of my life? How did you start taking some of those on-campus jobs, and what were some of those?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. I think, and I'm going to keep, honing this into the ground probably, but just serve where you're at. I was in the student athlete advisory committee. I think I was vice president, but I was making sure that I was doing activities in the community. Whereas, I was a student athlete, so we were able to use that platform to go visit people in the hospital. We were able to use that platform to go bring canned goods to a food bank, so just serve where you're at, especially if you have the platform of an athlete or just working in the realm of athletics, serve there. Also, I was able to write, I think a lot of times if you're trying to be a speaker, it's good to write and read, right? And vice versa. But I was able to write as a student editor for just a local magazine. That's great. I think universities, a lot of times, especially in athletics, are always looking for student writers or student reporters for your games that are going on that are being broadcasted. Maybe it's with ESPN Plus, ESPN Digital. Ask, how can I get involved as a runner, as a stage manager, as a camera operator? That's what I have learned as I've gone through, is I see a lot of students doing that. Another thing that I did is I am going to pretend my glasses are my phone. I would literally go out to the field and put a phone there and pretend like I was reporting. And so I just fake it, honestly. Do things that you want to do just whenever you're given the opportunity. You might wake up on a Saturday at 9 a.m. and say, okay, before game day, I'm going to go and I'm going to practice reporting, or I'm going to connect with people on campus and shadow this game day. So hopefully that answered your question.
Awesome. And this next question, this is a deep one. We could spend a lot of time here on this one. This question is from Jared, a student at the University of Northern Iowa. He wants to know, how do you attempt to provide value to everyone that you meet?
Oh my goodness, Jared.
Deep question.
Okay. How do you attempt to provide value to everyone you meet? First of all, I think that Karlie Smith, I can't add value to anything. My first identity is I'm a child of God. So I have to stay connected to the Lord, right? To know that it is the Lord working through me to provide to other people, whether it's kindness, goodness, joy, laughter, empathy. I mean, whatever it is, providing value comes from a source that's really far greater than myself. And so I think I have to stay connected to my source and for me to provide value to anything in life. Right. But honestly, I love that question because it shows that, you have that outward perspective. It's not just about what can I benefit from this? It's how can I love the people well around me? How can I add value to their lives, to encourage and to build up the people around me? And you're going to go really far with that mentality, my friend. That's an awesome question. I'll need to chew on that a little bit more probably.
Yes. Great question. And we're going to keep the train rolling right here. We got our next question from Connor. Connor's a student at Abilene Christian University. And we mentioned a little the work-life balance here a little bit. How do you find balance between work and life? And then what does a typical work day hours wise look like? We know probably, during tournaments, probably a little bit heavier than it is during the regular season, but on average, what's a typical work day look like for you?
Every day is different. I think that is one thing definitely to know when you're getting involved in sports is the hours definitely are not a 9 to 5, because think about when the events are, right? And so if you want to work football, NFL, look at a Sunday and look at what time those games are normally being played, and then give yourself time to pad before and time to pad after, and then preparation for that week before the snap, right? There's so much preparation that happens that nobody's going to see. And so one day might look a little lighter where, you are working a 9 to 5, but then once the season gears up or once you're on the road working a game, those hours, that normal hour log really personally in my own life has been thrown out the window. And it's just, what am I going to do to get the job done here? And I think the cool thing is work-life balance for me, it's looked like kind of a mesh, because I'm able to just be who I am. Like I'm the same Karlie that you see on the job, hopefully, as you see off the job. And so, if my day is planned and I want to bring a coworker coffee, or I want to, record something. That to me is mission accomplished for the day. I think there's definite times for rest to be incorporated whenever you can get rest in, or whenever you can, prioritize family or prioritize different things. That needs to be a necessity in anybody's routine every single week. Your job cannot be an idol to you. But I think just going into sports, knowing that it's different every day, the hours are going to be long, but if you're meant to be there, you will have the endurance to do it.
I think that's a good point too. And, it definitely has to happen. As we know, on a Sunday, like you mentioned, during when you were working with Fox and setting up the COVID testing, 3:30 is a pretty early start time, and you're not done when you're done. Like there's a whole game that you got to help with too. So there's so much that goes into that. But like you said, the next Tuesday, you may be 9 to 5.
Yes.
So it ebbs and flows, and that comes with being organized and having time management and be able to adjust, as you go through whatever season that you're in.
And taking advantage, let me just add this real quick, taking advantage of pockets of time when you do have rest, making sure that you spend that time well. Like I said earlier, time is so valuable. So if you have 20 minutes, take advantage of it. Sorry.
Nope, all good. Our next question is from Mark. He's a student athlete at the University of Evansville, and he wants to know, as a fellow student athlete, how does he use his athletic profile and accomplishments on the field to separate himself when looking for a job in sports?
Definitely. Everything that you've learned, whether it's work ethic, waking up early to be at, early morning lifts, the selflessness that it takes to put your teammates before you, all of that is growing you in skills that are going to translate to the rest of your life. And so be cognizant, be aware of the things that you're learning, how you've been shaped throughout your time as a student and athlete. And then when you go out and you interview and you socialize and you talk to people, share your experiences, share what it is that you have learned being a student athlete. And I think, whatever you do, because when you're in the realm of athletics, you learn the language, you learn what it takes, you learn the work ethic, you just are picking up on so many things. And so for me, as an analyst, I'm able to key in on my experience as a student athlete, and you can speak from that wealth of knowledge and experience. And so hold on to that and just continue to grow where you're at right now, trusting that it really does pay off. It does. And
I too, because we've interviewed, full-time positions, internships here at the Hall of Fame. And, when someone comes to a table and they hand their resume across the table and you see student athlete, for me, I know right off the bat that you have dedication, you love sports for one, and that your time management is already a step above everybody else's. Because I wasn't a student athlete in college, but I was friends with a lot of them. So I know the commitment and the time it takes to be a full-time student and a full-time student athlete, and probably working a part-time job in there as well. So for me, even without even out saying anything, I know that those are some of the skills that you have, coming into an interview. Yeah.
And I will say too, whether you're a student athlete or not a student athlete, I remember looking at my friends who didn't play a sport, and I was a little, envious on game day. I would have to play, but they were able to go work a football game. Right. And so sometimes, I'm fresh out of college, like, what do I do now? And they're like, yeah, we've done this internship the past, 4 or 5 years. So, there's benefits to each. Like you said, there's always ebb and flow to everything, but yeah, you're where you're meant to be for sure.
All right. This is our last question we got from a student. So students, thank you guys. Did awesome today. These are all awesome questions. We're going to combine here too. These are both from Billy. Billy's a student at the University of Tampa. He wants to know, what personal characteristics are necessary to excel at your job? And what are a few things you enjoy about your current role with the CAA?
Some characteristics necessary to excel. And I can't speak for everyone, but I know that one that has kind of taken a while that I now see as a necessity is a selflessness to your workload, to the work environment you're in, being able to serve and know that it's not all about you, right? And that I think has allowed me to really reach the people where I'm at. I could be in Georgia or New York or Virginia, wherever I am, And I've seen that works. And it doesn't, you can't clench your teeth and be like, I'm going to be selfless today. It's a process. It's a growth that needs to take place of, I'm just putting other people first, and that's not to say that you just throw yourself out the window. It's like you can pocket in time and make sure you get what you need as well too. But I've seen that work, that characteristic. I've seen the characteristic of honesty be huge, being honest with your coworkers, especially, whatever season of life you're in. The older you get, the more challenging some things can happen and take place. And so knowing when to prioritize different things is definitely important. I would just say, having a joyful spirit, that is another thing that you can't just gain on your own. It needs to come from that source that I talked about earlier. And so just all of those things really, really, really I've seen carry throughout, and I have not ever been perfect. There's not one day that I've ever said, I've got the characteristics. Let me tell you, here's the book. Here's how you do it. Never. And so I think, just learning to have grace and take failures and know that you are not doing it for the audience. You're doing it because you've been called to do it and love people well. And you can either live or die by the approval of others. And so wherever you're at right now, I encourage you to really hone in to what it is that you can do internally to serve the people well, and don't do it to please them, but do it because you know that this is valuable. This is what it's all about eternally. And so the second question was, do I enjoy it? That was
what are some of the things, list a few things that you really enjoy about what you do with this series today.
Okay. So, I think when I left my job at Fox, it was kind of like, heartbreaking, because the thing that I enjoyed the most was being around the people, right? You just love being around the people. And so now being in this new role, I've been able to cultivate new relationships with my coworkers. And I think that has definitely been something that is at the top for me. But like the other day, I just interviewed a head coach who had just beaten cancer a month ago, breast cancer. And so, that's so beyond anything that you think, a score of a game or, the outcomes, wins and losses, like that's real life stuff. And so I have the honor to interview those type of people. And it's such a privilege to share what other people have accomplished, what they have persevered through. And sometimes it just looks like sharing, wow, that person hit a home run and they've been slumping for like 2 weeks. So hallelujah. But, it changes day to day. But I think, being able to really add some depth to the sports realm is what I love and hope to continue to do for a while.
Awesome. Again, students, thank you for all those questions. Those were great.
Thanks,
I kind of want to parlay a little bit off of that, what you just talked about there. Working in sports, one of the perks is you get to do a lot of really cool things. I always joke that, people would pay a lot of money to get to do some of the things I've gotten to do in my relatively short career here at the Hall of Fame. So, we always picture it, retired, sitting at home in the lazy boy, grandkids are with you, and they say, hey, Grandma Karlie, what is the one thing that you remember about your career? What was the coolest moment you ever got to be a part of? So looking back on your career so far, is there a on the field moment, an interview you gave, something you got to witness in person that you kind of step back and go, wow, I can't believe I was there?
Can I answer this honestly?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So I think before the pandemic hit, it was like 2019, worked the Super Bowl in Miami. Post game, the confetti's coming down on the field. I look down, I'm like looking at the confetti like, wow, that was cool. And I remember in that moment just saying, I'm not fully satisfied, which is crazy to say. We all think of, I've worked postseasons. I've been on the field for the end of the World Series. There's so many things that the Lord has allowed me to do where it's been like, this is awesome. Like you said, like your kids, you'd show a picture and be like, look at Karlie, And I remember just in that moment, though, the confetti's coming down, the trophy ceremony took place. And, you see guys literally walking out these dreams that they've had. And it's so emotional. It's so cool. And then internally, I'm like, the only thing that satisfies me is Jesus Christ. And that's it. And so these things are always awesome. And I'm so thankful for the opportunities that I've had, but I get to experience the best thing every single day of my life. And so I can't pinpoint one moment and say that's what I'm going to tell my grandkids. I'm going to tell my grandkids everything, because I live the best thing every single day, which is Jesus. And so that's my personal honest answer. That's probably not everybody's answer, but hopefully there's more experiences to come as well.
No, yeah, career is only going to get longer and down the road and be a part of so many different things. But I think that's a great way to answer that question for sure. A couple more here from me. We talked about a little bit, you being a student athlete, playing softball at East Carolina, throughout your time there. We talked about the values at the beginning that we believe in here at the Hall of Fame. You mentioned honesty here a couple questions ago. Being a student athlete, being involved in sports, how important is it to take those life lessons you learn from the game? You play in softball, you working in football, obviously here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, surrounded by that game. How important is it to take those values and apply that to your everyday life?
Yeah, vital. I mean, when you wake up to the time you go to bed, to the time you're, in the car with your kids, or for you guys in college or high school, if you're going to class with a friend, right? Like, you want to be the same person through and through in every circumstance, in every sphere of influence that you have. And so when you're a student athlete and you're being shaped in a way of, being a hard worker and a teammate and a selfless person and all these things, someone who doesn't quit, someone who continues to persevere, that's going to be you when you're a mom. That's going to be you when you're a dad. It's going to be you when you're a friend, when you're a neighbor, when you're on your job. And so keep that with you without a doubt. But I think just as you continue to walk that out every day, it's who you are. And so it's not like you have to put on, I'm a student athlete and I've got all these things in the bag, and then I go to work and then I got to force that again. It's just who you are. It's fluid. You're just walking that out every day.
Looking back on your career, we read in your bio there a lot of different, roles and responsibilities, career changes throughout your short, tenure working in sports already. I've been lucky enough to be here at the Hall of Fame for the past 6.5, almost 7 years. And, I'm okay with that. But there's a lot of people who, want to reach that pinnacle, find that one goal, that one job they want at the end of the road. So how have you embraced that change, so much change already? And how would you encourage students to say, hey, it's okay if you get into a job and don't like it and need to go to another state or move across the country, or you want to come back home and work for your local sports team, local college?
Yeah.
Why is it okay to embrace that change?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I mean, there's a lot of things I've done that I didn't like, there's a lot of things that you're going to do in life that you don't always enjoy, but you can have joy in it because, like I said, when you are connected to the source, whatever it is, maybe it's what you're passionate for in life. Like, my passion is carrying me through every single role. And so, I started off as a production assistant. Is that the end goal? Absolutely not. But it opened doors. It opened my eyes. It carved me in different ways that I couldn't have done myself. And so when you go, expect that there's going to be jobs, especially early on, that you're like, man, is this what I want to do forever? And everything's for a season. That's just it. And so, I think being able to embrace the fact that you might not love it right away, but if you have a consistent source, a consistent goal, a consistent vision and purpose, you're going to be fine wherever you're at. And I've had to learn that secret to contentment. Right. But I think, also what happens with change and a lot in the sports realm, you can fly anywhere, you can go anywhere. And that's scary, right? Especially freelancing, if you have a certain period of time where you're working, then that season ends and it's time to look for the next job. And so for me, I've learned trust. I've learned that I can trust in God alone to be my provider. And so that's what I hang my hat on every single day and always will, by the grace of God. But that's just part of it. It is. And the more you step in and lean into the uncomfy, or, hey, maybe this isn't exactly what I want to do to a T, but I'm going to learn something here because I'm meant to be here. Right. Of course, there's some scenarios that you might feel called, like I need to leave, and that's okay too. It's just, being where you're at, being present where you're at, and learning that whatever it is that you're doing, where you're serving, where you're learning how to navigate different skills, gifts, talents, whatever it is, it's sharpening you and it's sharpening the people around you to be effective, not only in this season, but in seasons to come.
Awesome. Well, we're winding down here. A couple more things we want to do before we wrap up. So we're going to get into our rapid fire question segment now, which is something we added this year. We're really excited, really fun, kind of way to answer some career questions, but also some questions on the side as well. So Karlie, you ready?
Ready.
All right. LinkedIn. Number one, LinkedIn. Great way to network or just another social media app?
Great way. I mean, come on, just message people left and right. Yes, go for it. Why not?
Number two, GPA on a resume. Keep it or leave it off?
Depending. What's your GPA? Just kidding. I think it's great to have on there if you feel confident in it, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Number three, social media accounts, public or private?
I keep mine public, but as I've gotten to this stage in my life, I've learned I'm not posting anything that I wouldn't want anyone to see. So if it's private, keep it off social media. Yeah.
All right. Jeans at work. All day, every day, never, or only on Fridays?
Well, today's Friday. I'm wearing jeans right now, right? But you would never know that. So I'm working from home, but I think just it depends on the event. Ask your supervisor if you're concerned.
All right. Coin toss, heads or tails?
Always the head, never the tail.
All right. And then last question here. You score a touchdown, go-to touchdown celebration.
Go-to touchdown celebration. I feel like I can relate to this because, softball player, I've hit home runs. So you're circling the bases, you're coming in, you're giving your team high fives, hugs. I'm a hugger. We'll hug it out. We'll hug it out in the end zone. Why not?
Awesome. Well, thanks for those. And our last question here today for you again, Karlie, thanks for being a part of this. Was awesome. Student interaction was great. I've already seen my phone light up with some messages from LinkedIn. Hopefully yours does as well, because they want to connect with you. Shouldn't be connecting with me. I'm just kidding. If you want to send it my way. But last question here. And we've talked a lot of great things today, ranging from how do you get involved in sports to networking, to finding your path, to being okay with change. But if there's one thing you want the students to remember today and walk away with, that one last piece of advice, what would that one nugget of information you want them to leave with be?
Yeah, this just popped into my head, so I'm just going to speak it out, but stay in your lane. Don't compare yourself. Don't look left. Don't look right. Don't look at, oh, that person's accomplished this. I should have done that. Or that person accomplished this. Maybe I need to work harder in this area to get there. No, stay in your lane, love and serve the people where you're at right now, today, very well, and continue to, head down, work hard, and encourage the people. You can look around and say, keep going. You've got this. Stay, you can encourage people, but comparison will steal your joy. And so know that you're where you're meant to be right now. Believe that, and continue to follow whatever it is that guides you through life.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series today, featuring Karlie Smith. Karlie, again, thank you so much for being a part of the program today.
Thanks. It was a blessing and such an honor. Thank you.
Before we leave today, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever it might be on any social media platform of everything we have here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Like I said, if you're a podcast listener, we mentioned our great friend here, coworker Jameer Howerton. Subscribe to that. Got some awesome interviews coming up with some Hall of Famers. And just stay tuned on everything that we have on social media. And I'll plug the CAA as well. Tune in, see what's going on in CAA. Karlie will be bringing you all the breaking news, all the interviews. With that great athletic association there. Next week, November 4th, we've got a program coming up with Jeremy Shute, who's a member of the Tennessee Titans organization. Going to talk a little bit about community impact down there in Nashville and all the great things that the Titans are doing in the community. So, as I said at the beginning, the game of football, it doesn't just happen. There's so many things that go into making sure that ball can be snapped before the snap, every Sunday, Monday, Thursday. And for people who work in a job like Karlie, truly every day of the week. So again, Karlie, from myself, from everybody here at the Hall of Fame, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. And then from myself, Karlie, everybody who tuned in today, students, thank you so much. Couldn't have done the program without you. So with that being said, we're going to finish up the program here today. We hope you can tune in here next week, November 4th, for our next